Hi, friends. I am so glad to be back with another episode of Ask Alicia Anything for 2022. This is the 8th Ask Alicia Anything, and I wanted to thank you for those of you who submit questions because I can only do this if you submit questions. So please, you can click the box below this if you are in my newsletter and you can submit your own question. But without further ado, I would like to start with the first question, which I loved. It was, what is the first book that made you cry? Those of you who know me know that it doesn't take a whole lot to make me cry, especially in books. I am one of those people who will walk through the Hallmark store and I can pick cards by the ones that make me cry. So, Anyway, but the first book that made me cry, as far as I can remember, was a book called A Dog Called Kitty, and it's by Bill Wallace. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember, but it is by Bill Wallace. I have it in my classroom actually, but I don't think very many of my kids take it from my library. But it was very heart-wrenching, and I'm a sucker for like animal stories. So things like that always kind of get under my skin. I will not spoil it for you, but it is sad. Have tissues handy if you look that one up at your local library. Nowadays, just about anything makes me cry. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, Colleen Hoover, as far as authors go, invariably makes me cry in her books. I think the only book of hers that I've read that didn't make me a little weepy was Verity, and if you've read that, you'll probably get why. But pretty much her whole catalog will make me cry. So if you are in the mood to cry, you can grab a box of tissues and pick up a Colleen Hoover book. Or go to your local Hallmark store, as I do. So yeah, The Dog Called Kitty was the first book that made me cry, and that was from Gretchen. So thank you. This is a good one. What are common traps for aspiring writers? This is a great question. I think there are so many, it is hard to name them all. But I think the one thing, if I could give you one piece of advice, is that everything that the writing community, and which is wonderful, it's a very giving, nurturing community as a whole. And we all, I think, have we all want to help our fellow writers, right? But what works for one writer may not work for you. And just because you can't make yourself fit in this little box does not make you any less of a writer. So I think that is probably my number one piece of advice. Find what works for you and use that, and don't waste time. It's not that you can't learn other things. You should always be learning and growing as a writer. But as far as methods go and the way stories come to you, I think that part is oftentimes inherent, and it can't necessarily, it's part of your personality in a way, and it can't necessarily be changed just because you take a class on how to plot. You can't force yourself inside that box. So don't waste time trying. Be yourself, be your own writer. You're no less a writer for it. So keep that in mind. And I hope that answers your question. This is from Abby. Yeah, it's from Abby. So Abby, I hope that answers your question. It's often a lot of trial and error as you're getting started, and that's okay. That's how you learn and grow as a writer. So don't force a timeline that will just hinder your creative process. And don't force yourself into boxes that don't fit you. Yeah. So that's question number 2 today. This is another good one. This one is from Chad. So Chad, thank you. What is your writing kryptonite? Okay, my writing kryptonite is stress. Stress really affects me physically, emotionally, mentally. It does a lot of things to me. I get stress headaches. My body kind of does this crazy, you're going to get sick now thing. That's terrible. And so yeah, stress. I often, if I'm under too much stress because of any factor, whether it's something just going on at home, or if it's something going on at school where I work, or if it's something going on in my writing life, if it's causing me stress, I can't get in the creative zone I need to get in order to produce work, which is kind of what happened over the course of last year. This year will be better, I hope. I have learned some ways to cope with that. I've done a lot of work, unseen work over the past year to try to get myself or find ways to monitor that stress level and to keep it low. I've learned I need to focus on the things, the elements of my life that are within my control, and not let the elements that are outside of my control get me down too much. Hello, COVID. And that's easier said than done. And there are certain ways to do that. I listen to music. I have some meditations that I've picked up that I do. I enjoy yoga. I get on my treadmill. There are things that I've learned that I can do to help. I do date nights with my husband, which is always helpful because then I don't have to think about the other parts of life. And that part of my life is wonderful. So yeah, so I'm very lucky in that way. I do always have a nice core of support to fall back on, which is very helpful in those moments of high stress. But yes, that is my kryptonite. And probably not just in my writing life, but in just life in general. That is my kryptonite, stress. So I definitely recommend finding ways to deal with that if you are like me and it puts the kibosh on your creativity. So that was 3 questions. I promise not to make this too long because I realized some of my old ones are like super length, like, movies. We don't need that. You don't need to look at my face for that long. So anyway, if you have more questions, please send them my way. I am looking forward to spending this year with you and getting to know you a little better. And hopefully you can get to know me a little better too. So drop me a line and send me a question. I can't wait to answer it. Thanks so much. Bye.